William Shakespeare stands as one of the most iconic figures in the history of literature, his name synonymous with the art of storytelling, poetic brilliance, and theatrical mastery. Yet, for all the acclaim and reverence he commands, much about his life remains shrouded in mystery. The Bard of Avon is both a celebrated genius and a historical enigma, a man whose works have survived centuries while his personal story often feels elusive. This chapter explores the enduring fascination with Shakespeare's life and legacy, setting the stage for a deeper exploration of his journey. Shakespeare's life is often pieced together through fragments of historical records, leaving modern scholars and enthusiasts to fill in the gaps with conjecture. Born in 1564 in Stratford-upon-Avon, his existence is documented by baptismal records, marriage certificates, and legal documents. However, details about his education, early career, and the inspirations for his masterpieces remain speculative. This scarcity of concrete information only fuels the mystique surrounding his life and legacy. The appeal of Shakespeare lies not just in his literary brilliance, but in his universality. His works transcend time and geography, addressing themes of love, power, betrayal, and mortality that resonate across cultures and generations. This universal appeal has made him a subject of fascination not only for literary scholars but also for psychologists, historians, and even conspiracy theorists. Each group finds in Shakespeare a reflection of their own interests, further deepening the enigma of his persona. Another aspect of Shakespeare's intrigue is the duality of his reputation. On one hand, he is hailed as a literary genius, the creator of profound tragedies like Hamlet and King Lear and delightful comedies like A Midsummer Night's Dream. On the other, he is viewed as a man of humble origins, the son of a glove maker in a small English town. This juxtaposition of extraordinary talent with ordinary beginnings challenges notions of genius and raises questions about the nature of creativity itself. Despite the lack of biographical detail, Shakespeare's works provide a window into his world. The plays and sonnets reveal an acute understanding of human nature, politics, and the social dynamics of his time. They also hint at a man deeply attuned to the complexities of emotion and the intricacies of language. Through his characters, he explored the full spectrum of human experience, leaving behind a body of work that continues to be studied and performed worldwide. The allure of Shakespeare also lies in the questions he leaves unanswered. Who was the dark lady of his sonnets? What inspired the tragic depth of his later works? And perhaps most controversially, did Shakespeare truly write all the works attributed to him? These mysteries have inspired countless theories, from plausible historical hypotheses to far-fetched tales of ghostwriters and secret identities. Such debates underscore the enduring fascination with Shakespeare as a figure who exists both within and beyond the historical record. Shakespeare's enduring legacy owes much to his ability to evolve with the times. In the centuries following his death, his works have been adapted, reinterpreted, and repurposed to suit different cultural and political contexts. Whether on the stages of Elizabethan England, the opera houses of the 19th century, or the silver screens of Hollywood, Shakespeare has remained a touchstone of artistic innovation. His adaptability speaks to the timelessness of his themes and the malleability of his narratives. Equally compelling is the way Shakespeare bridges the divide between the elite and the popular. His works, written for the diverse audiences of the Elizabethan theater, range from highbrow reflections on existential dilemmas to bawdy humor and thrilling action. This dual appeal has allowed Shakespeare to occupy a unique position in the literary canon, beloved by academics and casual readers alike. Moreover, the global reach of Shakespeare's influence cannot be overstated. His works have been translated into every major language, performed in countless cultures, and adapted into myriad forms of media. From India's Bollywood adaptations to Japan's No and Kabuki renditions, Shakespeare's stories have found new life and meaning in contexts far removed from his own. This universality reinforces his status as a figure of unparalleled importance in world literature. As we embark on this exploration of Shakespeare's life and works, it is crucial to remember that the man behind the name remains, in many ways, unknowable. Yet, It is precisely this combination of historical mystery and artistic genius that makes him such a compelling subject. By examining his life, career, and enduring influence, we aim to uncover not just the story of William Shakespeare, but the reasons why his legacy continues to captivate hearts and minds centuries after his time. William Shakespeare's early life, much like the rest of his biography, is shrouded in mystery. What we do know, however, paints a picture of a man whose roots were firmly planted in a small English town that would become inextricably linked to his name. Born in April 1564 in Stratford-upon-Avon, Shakespeare's formative years occurred during a time of significant social and political change in England. Understanding this background is essential for exploring the influences that shaped his later work and how his early experiences may have informed his artistic vision. Shakespeare's birth took place in a period of relative prosperity for Stratford. The town was an important market center and a hub for local trade. This context likely exposed Shakespeare to a diverse array of social classes, from merchants and tradesmen to nobility, all of whom would later populate his plays. His father, John Shakespeare, was a well-known figure in Stratford, working as a glove maker and holding various local government posts. Despite his occasional financial struggles, John's prominence in the town would have afforded Shakespeare opportunities that others of his social standing might not have had. Shakespeare's mother, Mary Arden, was from a wealthy family, which may have provided the young William with an even broader view of the social dynamics of the time. His parents' marriage, which was arranged by his father's rising social ambitions, suggests that Shakespeare was born into a family with some social aspirations. Though not aristocratic, the family's position within the merchant and gentry class would have exposed Shakespeare to both the realities of provincial life and the aspirations of the landed elite. This duality, between common life and the aspirations toward higher social status, is a theme that frequently appears in Shakespeare's plays. As for Shakespeare's early education, there is little concrete evidence, but it is generally accepted that he attended the local grammar school, the King's New School. This school provided a rigorous curriculum that focused on Latin and classical literature, both of which were central to the education of the English elite at the time. The school's emphasis on the works of ancient authors such as Ovid, Cicero, and Virgil likely had a profound influence on Shakespeare, helping to shape his literary style and interests. Many of the themes in his plays, such as the use of classical mythology and the structure of Roman tragedies, point to his education in Latin and classical texts. However, despite the relatively solid education Shakespeare received, little is known about his life after his school years. There is a significant gap in the historical record between his schooling and his appearance in London in the early 1590s, often referred to as the lost years. This period remains a topic of much speculation. Some scholars believe that he may have worked as a teacher, a lawyer's clerk, or in a variety of other occupations before pursuing his theatrical career. Others suggest that he may have even traveled to Italy, a theory based on the number of Italian settings and influences present in his plays. Regardless of the exact details, it is clear that Shakespeare's early years were filled with opportunities for exposure to different walks of life, which he would later weave into his plays. Stratford itself, the town where Shakespeare spent his youth, was an important cultural and social microcosm. The town boasted various public festivals, performances, and religious observances that may have ignited Shakespeare's interest in the theater. The prominence of local pageants and celebrations suggests that Shakespeare grew up in an environment where dramatic performances were part of everyday life. Though Stratford had no formal theater at the time, it is likely that Shakespeare's early experiences with public spectacles, folk plays, and possibly traveling players set the stage for his later career as a playwright. Additionally, Stratford was deeply embedded in the religious tensions of the time. The late 16th century was a period of religious upheaval in England, with the Protestant Reformation under King Henry VIII and the subsequent conflicts between Catholics and Protestants. Shakespeare's family, although Protestant, would have experienced the societal divisions created by these religious rifts. The tension between loyalty to the crown and allegiance to the Catholic Church is reflected in many of Shakespeare's plays, such as Henry VIII and Macbeth, where the intersection of political and religious power is central to the narrative. Shakespeare's family life also played a crucial role in his early development. He married Anne Hathaway in 1582 when he was only 18 years old, and they had 3 children together, Susanna and twins Hamnet and Judith. His marriage to Hathaway, who was 8 years older than him, has been the subject of much discussion. Some scholars argue that it may have been a pragmatic choice rather than a romantic one, influenced by the pressures of an unplanned pregnancy. Others speculate that Shakespeare's relationship with Hathaway was more complicated, possibly marked by emotional distance or social ambition. This aspect of Shakespeare's personal life has sparked debate, especially since there are few surviving records about his feelings toward his wife and family. While the specifics of Shakespeare's relationships remain unclear, his experience as a father likely informed his writing. The early loss of his son, Hamnet, in 1596, when the boy was only 11, had a profound impact on Shakespeare. It is often suggested that this tragedy influenced his later works, particularly his exploration of themes such as grief, the passage of time, and the fragility of life. The loss of a child can be seen as a precursor to the deep emotional currents in plays like Hamlet and King Lear, where fathers grapple with the impermanence of life and the complexities of family relationships. The small, relatively quiet town of Stratford-upon-Avon, therefore, provided Shakespeare with a grounding that would later fuel his expansive creative vision. It is in this seemingly modest setting that he first encountered the social, political, and emotional forces that would shape his writing. Though Stratford may seem distant from the bright lights of London, it was there that Shakespeare first began to observe the world in all its complexity. The town's social fabric, the rich literary heritage of its grammar school, and the personal experiences he underwent all served to nurture the genius that would one day conquer the stage. Thus, while we may never know every detail of Shakespeare's early life, it is clear that these formative years in Stratford were a crucial period in his artistic development. The transition from Stratford-upon-Avon to London marks a significant turning point in William Shakespeare's life and career. Though much of this period remains undocumented, it is widely believed that by the early 1590s, Shakespeare had left his hometown to seek his fortune in the bustling metropolis of London. The exact reasons for this move are speculative, but it is often suggested that Shakespeare was drawn to the thriving theater scene that had emerged during the reign of Queen Elizabeth I. His decision to venture to London reflects both the aspirations of a young man seeking success and the broader cultural dynamics of the time. London in the late 16th century was a city brimming with opportunity and creative energy. It was a period of unprecedented cultural and artistic growth, driven by the flourishing of Elizabethan drama. The theater, in particular, had become a central part of the city's entertainment culture, with an increasing number of playhouses, public performances, and literary patrons. At this time, the Elizabethan court and aristocracy were avid supporters of the arts, creating a fertile environment for playwrights, actors, and poets. Shakespeare's arrival in London likely coincided with this golden age of English drama, where the theater had become both a form of mass entertainment and a powerful tool for political and social commentary. For Shakespeare, London offered a world of artistic possibilities. The city's many playhouses, most notably the Theatre, the Rose, and later the Globe, were home to a burgeoning theater industry that provided ample opportunities for a talented writer to gain recognition. These playhouses had a reputation for drawing large audiences, and their performances were accessible to people from all walks of life, from the nobility to the common folk. Shakespeare's works, known for their appeal across social classes, would soon find a receptive audience in London's diverse theater scene. The young playwright would have quickly recognized that the city provided the ideal platform to showcase his literary talents and artistic vision. Shakespeare's entry into London's theater scene was likely facilitated by his early involvement as an actor. During this time, many playwrights also worked as actors, often writing their own plays for the companies they performed with. This dual role allowed playwrights to immerse themselves in the dynamics of the stage and better understand the needs and desires of both actors and audiences. Shakespeare's experience as an actor may have not only shaped his understanding of dramatic structure, but also helped him refine his understanding of performance and the art of stage direction. The immersion in the theatrical world would have provided him with invaluable insights into how to craft plays that would captivate a wide range of audiences. Shakespeare's earliest known works were likely written for London's popular theater companies, which were often patronized by noblemen and wealthy merchants. These plays were produced rapidly and designed to appeal to the tastes of the general public, as well as to the sophisticated sensibilities of the court. In the early 1590s, Shakespeare's plays began to gain attention for their skillful blend of humor, tragedy, and insightful commentary on human nature. Plays like The Taming of the Shrew, The Comedy of Errors, and Henry VI are thought to be some of his early works, showcasing his ability to work across different genres and draw upon the cultural and political landscape of the time. The rapid success of these early works marked the beginning of Shakespeare's rise within London's competitive theater world. However, the city also presented challenges. The world of Elizabethan theater was not only competitive, but also politically volatile. Playwrights, actors, and theater owners often had to navigate censorship laws and court politics, as plays were frequently subject to review by the master of the revels, who held the power to approve or ban performances. This censorship process was often highly political, with certain themes, such as criticisms of the monarchy or religious institutions, being prohibited. Shakespeare, however, was able to walk the fine line between appealing to the masses while avoiding the wrath of those in power, incorporating layers of political subtext that would not go unnoticed by more discerning members of his audience. Shakespeare's works from this early period reflect both his understanding of the public's tastes and his sophisticated grasp of the human condition. His comedies, particularly, were notable for their wit, their intricate plots, and their exploration of social norms. In A Midsummer Night's Dream and Twelfth Night, Shakespeare deftly examined the fluidity of identity, the nature of love, and the impact of social structures on personal relationships. His exploration of these themes resonated with the diverse audiences who flocked to the theater, from London's urban poor to the noble court. Shakespeare's ability to captivate audiences with both humor and depth helped solidify his place in the competitive world of Elizabethan theater. As his reputation as a playwright grew, Shakespeare also began to receive patronage from some of London's most influential figures. In 1594, he became a member of the Lord Chamberlain's Men, one of the leading acting companies of the time. This company, later known as the King's Men after James I ascended to the throne, provided Shakespeare with the resources and support to produce his plays on a larger scale. His involvement with this troupe allowed him to establish long-lasting relationships with talented actors, many of whom would become associated with his works for years to come. The company's success was instrumental in Shakespeare's own success, as it provided him with both financial stability and the creative freedom to explore new themes and dramatic forms. Shakespeare's relationship with the Lord Chamberlain's Men, and later the King's Men, also had a lasting impact on the development of the English theater. The company was responsible for building the Globe Theatre in 1599, a venue that would become synonymous with Shakespeare's name. The Globe was one of the most significant theaters of its time, offering a more intimate and dynamic performance space than the large, open-air amphitheaters that had been the norm. The creation of the Globe marked a turning point in Shakespeare's career, allowing him to experiment with new dramatic forms and staging techniques that would shape the evolution of theater. Shakespeare's move to London, though marked by challenges, was ultimately the catalyst for his career as one of the world's greatest dramatists. The city offered a platform for him to hone his craft, build relationships with influential figures, and create a body of work that would define the trajectory of English drama. London's vibrant cultural landscape, its diverse audiences, and its burgeoning theater industry proved to be the ideal environment for Shakespeare to flourish. The journey from Stratford to London, although shrouded in uncertainty, was a pivotal moment in Shakespeare's life that set the stage for his rise to fame and immortality. Shakespeare's rise to prominence as a playwright in the competitive theater world of late 16th century London was both swift and transformative. By the time he had established himself as a significant figure in the city's dramatic scene, his works had already begun to set him apart from his contemporaries. His early plays, written in the 1590s, reflect a writer still exploring his craft, developing his unique voice, and experimenting with various genres. These works, which include comedies, histories, and tragedies, laid the groundwork for the lasting impact Shakespeare would have on the theatrical world. The initial success of Shakespeare's plays can be attributed to his versatility and keen understanding of the social and cultural currents of his time. His ability to appeal to both the popular masses and the intellectual elite marked him as a playwright with broad appeal. Unlike some of his contemporaries who focused on one genre or style, Shakespeare seemed at ease writing across multiple forms. His early comedies, such as The Taming of the Shrew and A Midsummer Night's Dream, combined elements of farce, romance, and wit, while his historical plays, including Henry VI and Richard III, tapped into the political consciousness of his audience. Each of these works reflected Shakespeare's mastery of character, language, and plot construction. The Elizabethan theater was a dynamic and ever-evolving institution, and Shakespeare's early plays reflected the changes in society during this period. The cultural climate of the time, which was shaped by political instability, the expansion of English influence abroad, and a growing sense of national identity, was a fertile ground for historical dramas. Shakespeare's Henry VI, in particular, captured the turbulence of the Wars of the Roses, portraying the complex relationships between England's warring noble families. These early historical plays were notable for their nuanced portrayal of political power, ambition, and the consequences of dynastic conflict. In them, Shakespeare demonstrated an ability to make history come alive on stage, drawing from both the past and the present to create compelling narratives that resonated with his audience. Shakespeare's early history plays not only entertained, but also provided a form of social commentary. Richard III, perhaps the most famous of these early histories, is a striking exploration of ambition, manipulation, and moral corruption. The character of Richard, a Machiavellian figure who will stop at nothing to claim the throne, is one of Shakespeare's most memorable villains. Through Richard's rise to power and subsequent fall, Shakespeare invited the audience to reflect on the nature of political leadership and the ethical implications of ruthless ambition. This blending of historical events with psychological depth would become a hallmark of Shakespeare's writing in later plays. At the same time, Shakespeare's early comedies established him as a master of humor, character development, and social critique. Plays like The Comedy of Errors and Twelfth Night demonstrated his ability to create intricate plots full of mistaken identities, disguise, and misunderstandings. These comedies often explored themes of love, class, and social mobility, as well as the fluidity of identity. In Twelfth Night, for example, the characters' shifting roles and identities, embodied in the figure of Viola, who dresses as a man, raise questions about gender, desire, and social norms. Through such plays, Shakespeare demonstrated his remarkable skill in using humor and lightheartedness to address serious themes, making his comedies both entertaining and thought-provoking. Shakespeare's talent for weaving complex narratives and crafting vivid characters was further evident in his tragedies, which began to emerge during this period. Early tragedies like Titus Andronicus and Romeo and Juliet marked a shift toward darker themes, exploring the destructive nature of revenge, passion, and fate. Titus Andronicus, known for its violence and gruesome scenes, was an intense exploration of vengeance and moral decay, while Romeo and Juliet represented a more restrained, but equally profound meditation on love, fate, and the societal pressures that shape individual lives. The juxtaposition of love and death in Romeo and Juliet remains one of Shakespeare's most powerful thematic explorations, setting the stage for the more mature tragedies that would follow. The early plays of Shakespeare also reflect his increasing mastery of language and his ability to manipulate poetic form. His use of iambic pentameter, blank verse, and witty wordplay gave his works a distinctive rhythm and structure that set them apart from those of other playwrights. His skill in crafting soliloquies, such as Hamlet's iconic "to be or not to be" speech, allowed him to delve into the deepest recesses of human thought and emotion, capturing the complexity of his characters in a way that had not been done before. Shakespeare's language was not merely a means of communication, but a vehicle for exploring the human condition in all its complexity. In addition to his artistic achievements, Shakespeare's early plays were also significant for their commercial success. The London theater scene was a competitive marketplace, and playwrights depended on popular demand to ensure their plays were performed and published. Shakespeare's ability to produce works that appealed to both the elite and the general public made him a valuable asset to his acting company, the Lord Chamberlain's Men. The success of his plays during this period ensured that his name became synonymous with quality and innovation in the theater, leading to increased recognition and patronage from wealthy individuals and members of the court. The development of the London theater scene itself played a critical role in Shakespeare's rise. The growth of permanent playhouses like the Theatre and the Globe provided a stable platform for playwrights and actors to showcase their works. These theaters were larger and more sophisticated than earlier, temporary performance spaces, allowing for more elaborate productions and a broader audience. Shakespeare's plays, with their vivid characters, intricate plots, and rich language, were ideally suited to the dynamic and evolving theatrical environment of London. His works quickly became a staple of the city's theatrical repertoire, with audiences eagerly anticipating his new plays. By the late 1590s, Shakespeare had become one of the most celebrated playwrights in London, and his early works had secured his place in the annals of English drama. His ability to write across genres, historical dramas, comedies, and tragedies, established him as a versatile and innovative artist. His command of language, insight into human nature, and ability to blend entertainment with deeper social and psychological commentary marked him as a writer ahead of his time. The early plays not only laid the foundation for Shakespeare's later masterpieces, but also set the stage for the evolution of English theater itself. In conclusion, Shakespeare's early rise to prominence was the result of a combination of talent, opportunity, and the dynamic cultural and theatrical environment of Elizabethan London. His early works, from comedies to tragedies, demonstrated his remarkable versatility and mastery of language, while his ability to engage with contemporary social, political, and personal themes set him apart from his contemporaries. These early plays not only captured the spirit of the age, but also established Shakespeare as a literary force whose influence would shape the future of drama for centuries to come. The establishment of the Globe Theatre in 1599 marks a pivotal moment in William Shakespeare's career, both as a playwright and a figure in the London theatre scene. The Globe was not merely a physical space, but a symbol of Shakespeare's increasing influence, his rising artistic maturity, and his growing role in the development of English drama. This chapter explores how the Globe Theatre, and Shakespeare's involvement with it, provided the perfect environment for him to expand his creative vision and solidify his legacy as one of the greatest dramatists in history. The Globe Theatre was the brainchild of the Lord Chamberlain's Men, the acting troupe to which Shakespeare belonged. After a dispute with their landlord at the theatre, the company decided to dismantle the structure and rebuild it across the river in Southwark, where the Globe was constructed. Shakespeare himself was a shareholder in the new theatre, which gave him both financial and creative investment in its success. The Globe was an innovative venue for its time, with an open roof, a circular structure, and a large stage that allowed for an intimacy between actors and the audience. The design of the Globe revolutionized the theatrical experience, making Shakespeare's plays even more accessible and impactful. The construction of the Globe coincided with a period of Shakespeare's greatest artistic output. Between 1599 and 1608, Shakespeare wrote some of his most iconic and enduring works, including Hamlet, Othello, King Lear, and Macbeth. These tragedies marked the culmination of his artistic evolution and represented a departure from the more formulaic structures of his earlier works. The Globe, with its expansive stage and ability to accommodate large audiences, allowed Shakespeare to experiment with complex narratives, dark themes, and deeply psychological characters. The theater's unique design, which included the pit, where standing audience members gathered, and the more opulent galleries, also encouraged a diverse mix of social classes to experience his works. This fusion of accessibility and artistry helped cement Shakespeare's reputation as a playwright who could speak to all levels of society. The Globe's influence on Shakespeare's writing cannot be understated. It provided a space where his plays could be staged with the grandeur and complexity they required. In his earlier plays, Shakespeare had often relied on a simpler set of props and effects, but the Globe allowed for more elaborate scenery and a fuller exploration of stagecraft. The venue's large, open stage provided ample room for the physicality of action, while the intimate proximity of the audience to the actors enabled a more direct emotional connection. This environment was perfectly suited to the heightened drama of Shakespeare's tragedies, where the stakes were often life and death, and the language was dense with emotional and philosophical weight. The Globe also fostered a new level of collaboration between playwrights, actors, and directors. Shakespeare's close relationship with the actors of the Lord Chamberlain's Men, many of whom were among the most skilled and renowned of the time, allowed him to tailor his characters and dialogue to the strengths of the performers. This collaboration was particularly evident in his complex tragic heroes, such as Hamlet, Macbeth, and Lear, whose depth of emotion and psychological conflict demanded nuanced portrayals. The actor's ability to bring Shakespeare's characters to life on stage played a crucial role in the success of his plays. Furthermore, the theater's popularity attracted some of the most notable audiences of the time, including aristocrats and even royalty, giving Shakespeare's work unprecedented visibility and prestige. The success of the Globe Theatre also mirrored the political and social climate of the time. The Elizabethan era was a period of relative peace and economic growth, which allowed for a flourishing of the arts. This was particularly true under the reign of Queen Elizabeth I and later, King James I. The stability of the monarchy and the patronage of the arts by the court provided playwrights like Shakespeare with the opportunity to produce works that were not only entertaining, but also resonated with the political realities of the time. In plays like Macbeth, which reflects anxieties about regicide and the divine right of kings, Shakespeare used the theater as a space for subtle political commentary. The Globe Theatre thus became a place not only for artistic performance, but also for intellectual engagement with the issues of the day. Shakespeare's growing engagement with tragedy during this period was closely tied to his increasing exploration of human nature. His tragedies, which became more psychologically complex with each passing play, demonstrate his understanding of the human condition in a way that few other playwrights had achieved before. In plays like Othello and King Lear, Shakespeare explored themes of jealousy, madness, and the impact of power on the mind. These tragedies are marked by their deep psychological insight, where the internal conflicts of characters like Hamlet, Othello, and Lear are not only portrayed through dialogue, but also through their actions and the consequences of their choices. The Globe stage, with its capacity for intense emotional expression, was the ideal venue for these rich, multifaceted characters. Moreover, Shakespeare's exploration of tragedy during the Globe years represents a shift from the more conventional moral narratives of earlier drama. His tragic heroes were no longer mere victims of fate or circumstance, but complex individuals whose flaws, ambitions, and desires led them to their ultimate downfalls. In Hamlet, the titular character's indecisiveness and internal conflict about revenge create a tragic tension that drives the entire play. Similarly, in Macbeth, the eponymous character's unchecked ambition leads him to murder and madness. Shakespeare's tragedies, often regarded as his most profound works, explored the darkest aspects of human psychology and existence, and they set the stage for modern understandings of character and motivation in literature and drama. Shakespeare's plays during the Globe years also reflect a growing sophistication in his use of language. His mastery of iambic pentameter, coupled with his ability to manipulate metaphor, imagery, and rhythm, reached new heights during this period. The soliloquies in his tragedies, especially in Hamlet, are considered some of the most eloquent and profound expressions of philosophical thought in English literature. These speeches allow characters to reveal their innermost thoughts and desires, often confronting existential questions about life, death, and meaning. This blending of poetic form and deep thematic content became one of Shakespeare's trademarks and further cemented his place as a writer of unparalleled skill. Shakespeare's years at the Globe also saw him become a central figure in the development of English theater. His works were performed not only in the Globe, but also in other venues, expanding his influence beyond London. The success of his plays helped shape the landscape of English drama for generations to come. His ability to intertwine action, language, and character development made his works the benchmark against which all other playwrights were measured. By the time the Globe Theatre was burned down in 1613, Shakespeare had already secured his place as one of the greatest literary figures of all time. The construction of the Globe and Shakespeare's association with it marked the beginning of a period of intense creative output that would lead to the most influential body of work in the history of the English stage. In conclusion, the Globe Theatre was an essential catalyst for the artistic maturation of William Shakespeare. It provided a physical space that allowed for greater complexity and innovation in the staging of his works, facilitating the exploration of deeper, more intricate themes. Shakespeare's involvement with the Globe not only reinforced his prominence within the London theatre scene, but also ensured that his plays would be remembered for their psychological depth, social relevance, and artistic brilliance. The Globe was not merely a venue. It was the stage upon which Shakespeare's greatest tragedies were realized, and it stands as a testament to the enduring power of his dramatic legacy. In addition to his work as a playwright, William Shakespeare's sonnets represent one of the most important aspects of his literary output. Published in 1609, the collection of 154 sonnets reveals a more personal, introspective side of the playwright and allows us a glimpse into his thoughts on themes such as love, beauty, time, and mortality. Though Shakespeare's plays are celebrated for their exploration of human nature, the sonnets offer a different, more concentrated form of expression, often grappling with the complexities of personal emotion and philosophical reflection. This chapter examines how Shakespeare's sonnets expand his literary legacy, offering profound insights into the human experience. The sonnets are notable for their exploration of love in its various forms. While many of Shakespeare's plays touch on love as a central theme, the sonnets take a more intimate approach, often addressing the subject directly and with remarkable depth. Several of the sonnets deal with a fair youth, presumed by many scholars to be a young man of exceptional beauty and character, whom the speaker both adores and seeks to protect from the ravages of time. Through these sonnets, Shakespeare examines the idealization of love, exploring how beauty, when left unchecked by time, is subject to decay. In Sonnet 18, famously beginning, "Shall I compare thee to a summer's day?" Shakespeare expresses the notion that the beloved's beauty is eternal, preserved forever through poetry itself. This intersection of love, beauty, and the transcendent power of art is central to many of the sonnets. Shakespeare's treatment of love is not confined to idealization. His sonnets also reveal the darker and more complicated aspects of love, including unrequited affection, jealousy, and the internal conflict that often accompanies deep emotional bonds. In Sonnet 30, for instance, Shakespeare meditates on the passage of time, reflecting on the sorrowful nature of loss and the pain of memories that do not fade with time. Love, in these sonnets, is not always a source of joy, but is often depicted as a force that elicits profound longing, suffering, and even despair. Shakespeare's ability to convey the complex, multifaceted nature of love, its highs and lows, demonstrates his understanding of the human heart and his skill in portraying it with raw, emotional honesty. The theme of time is another central concern of Shakespeare's sonnets. In the 154 poems, time is portrayed as both an enemy and a force to be reckoned with. Time, as an inevitable and irreversible power, is shown to lead to the eventual deterioration of all things, beauty, youth, and even life itself. In Sonnet 12, Shakespeare writes, "And soon that art of mine shall show your beauty and make it last forever in my rhyme." Here, the poet wrestles with time's destructive tendencies and proposes poetry as a means of defying its grasp. By immortalizing his subject through verse, Shakespeare suggests that the passage of time can be slowed or even overcome. Yet, this notion of literary immortality is bittersweet, as it only delays the inevitable. This tension between the temporal and the eternal lies at the heart of many of the sonnets. The fleeting nature of life, coupled with the relentless progression of time, is also central to Shakespeare's exploration of mortality in the sonnets. Death is a constant presence throughout the collection, often depicted as the ultimate end to all human endeavor and existence. In Sonnet 60, for example, Shakespeare compares the progression of time to waves on a beach, crushing all before it. He imagines how even the most majestic works of art or achievements are rendered insignificant in the face of death. This bleak but powerful recognition of mortality, however, is tempered by the hope that poetry can transcend death. While human bodies may wither away, Shakespeare's verse promises to preserve the memory of those he loves, even beyond their physical demise. While death and time are often portrayed as antagonists in the sonnets, Shakespeare also grapples with the idea of legacy. The sonnets reveal a preoccupation with the notion of leaving a lasting mark on the world. In Sonnet 55, for instance, he writes, "Not marble, nor the gilded monuments slash of princes shall outlive this powerful rhyme." Shakespeare asserts that poetry has the power to outlast physical monuments, temples, statues, and even the triumphs of kings. This theme of the permanence of art and its ability to preserve the essence of individuals is central to the poet's philosophy and reflects his belief in the transformative and immortalizing power of words. Through this lens, Shakespeare's sonnets serve as a means of both preserving and elevating the beauty and virtues of his beloved subjects. A critical aspect of the sonnets is the relationship between the poet and the addressees. The sonnets are typically divided into three main groups: those addressed to the fair youth, those to a dark lady, and a final series of sonnets that reflect on the poet's own inner turmoil and reflections. These relationships, real or imagined, become a vehicle for Shakespeare to explore larger questions about identity, desire, and the nature of artistic creation. The fair youth sonnets, in particular, have intrigued scholars for centuries, as many of them suggest a deeply personal and almost homoerotic affection between the poet and the youth. These poems often express feelings of longing, devotion, and a desire to preserve the beauty and purity of the youth, while also acknowledging the inevitability of time's destructive forces. The sonnets to the dark lady, in contrast, offer a different kind of emotional intensity. In these poems, Shakespeare portrays a relationship fraught with contradictions, passion and disillusionment, desire and disdain. The dark lady is frequently depicted as a seductive but morally ambiguous figure, whose beauty is both alluring and dangerous. Through these sonnets, Shakespeare explores the darker, more ambiguous facets of love and attraction, touching on themes of infidelity, jealousy, and the complexities of human relationships. The tension between the fair youth and the dark lady in the sonnets illustrates the poet's multifaceted approach to love, revealing a range of emotional experiences and insights into the complexities of human desire. In addition to themes of love, time, and mortality, the sonnets also reflect Shakespeare's deep philosophical musings on the nature of poetry and the poet's role. Several sonnets focus on the poet's duty to immortalize beauty and truth through verse. In Sonnet 55, for example, Shakespeare explicitly states that poetry can preserve the memory of those it honors, ensuring that beauty will be not buried in the grave, but instead preserved in the text. The self-awareness of the poet in these sonnets reveals an intimate relationship between the act of writing and the desire for immortality. Shakespeare's recognition of the transitory nature of human existence paradoxically fuels his commitment to poetry as a means of achieving permanence. The sonnet's structure and form also reveal the poet's technical prowess. Shakespeare employed the English or Shakespearean sonnet form, comprising 14 lines with a rhyme scheme of abab cd cd ff gg, which allowed him to craft highly sophisticated poetic arguments within a rigid structure. The volta, or thematic shift, at the start of the third quatrain often marks a turning point in the content, introducing a resolution, revelation, or philosophical insight. Shakespeare's mastery of this form allowed him to balance emotional intensity with intellectual rigor, producing works that are both musically beautiful and thematically profound. In conclusion, Shakespeare's sonnets offer a compelling and complex exploration of human emotion, time, and mortality. Through these poems, Shakespeare not only delves into the nuances of love and desire, but also engages with broader philosophical questions about legacy, identity, and the passage of time. The sonnets reveal a side of Shakespeare that is deeply personal and reflective, as he grapples with his own place in the world and the fleeting nature of life. His use of poetic form, coupled with his ability to convey profound emotional and intellectual depth, ensures that the sonnets remain a cornerstone of English literature, offering a timeless window into the heart of one of history's greatest writers. The final stage of William Shakespeare's career marks a significant shift in both the tone and content of his plays. After the dark, brooding tragedies of his middle years, Macbeth, King Lear, and Hamlet, Shakespeare entered a new phase, writing plays that oscillated between tragicomedy and romance. These later works, including The Tempest, Pericles, Cymbeline, and The Winter's Tale, present a more optimistic vision of human nature, characterized by themes of reconciliation, forgiveness, and redemption. This chapter explores the evolution of Shakespeare's later plays, considering how they represent both a culmination of his artistic journey and a reflection of the changing political and cultural context of late Elizabethan and early Jacobean England. Shakespeare's transition to writing romantic and tragicomic plays can be traced to a number of personal and professional factors. One important consideration is the changing political climate in England. By the early 1600s, both Queen Elizabeth I and her successor, King James I, were increasingly concerned with the state of the nation. Following the tumultuous years of Elizabeth's reign, England faced both internal strife and external threats, including ongoing conflicts with Spain. In this atmosphere, Shakespeare's work began to shift from the intense psychological exploration of tragedy to a more hopeful, reconciliatory tone, reflecting a desire for social and political healing. The notion of reconciliation is a prominent feature of Shakespeare's later works, where divided families and societies are often brought back together through forgiveness and understanding. The culmination of this shift can be seen most clearly in The Tempest, written around 1611, which is widely regarded as Shakespeare's final solo-written play. In The Tempest, Shakespeare combines elements of tragedy and comedy, but the focus is on the transformative power of forgiveness. The play centers on Prospero, the exiled Duke of Milan, who uses magic to control the events on an island and to seek revenge against those who wronged him. However, by the end of the play, Prospero relinquishes his anger and forgives his enemies, choosing mercy over vengeance. The theme of reconciliation is made more poignant by Prospero's acknowledgement of his own flaws and the necessity of letting go of past grievances in order to move forward. Through the character of Prospero, Shakespeare explores the redemptive power of forgiveness and the idea that personal growth can occur through emotional release. The Tempest also marks the return of Shakespeare's exploration of themes such as the nature of power, authority, and justice, but through a more constructive lens. While plays like Macbeth and Richard III depict the destructive consequences of unchecked ambition and tyrannical rule, The Tempest presents an idealized form of leadership. Prospero is not a tyrant, but rather a ruler who, after much suffering and contemplation, decides to rule justly and with compassion. This shift in the depiction of authority reflects the political context of Shakespeare's time, in which the monarchy was central to the nation's identity. Yet questions of royal responsibility and the nature of power were increasingly being debated in English society. Another key feature of Shakespeare's later plays is their exploration of the role of fate and fortune. In Pericles, circa 1608, for example, the title character endures a series of misfortunes, including the loss of his wife and daughter. Yet, the play ultimately focuses on the hero's reunion with his family and the restoration of order and happiness. Pericles is often categorized as a romance, in part because of its focus on the eventual triumph of good fortune and the moral purity of its central characters. The play emphasizes the belief that virtue and perseverance will ultimately be rewarded, even if misfortune and suffering accompany the journey. Similarly, Cymbeline, circa 1611, combines elements of history and mythology telling the story of a king and his kingdom's eventual restoration after betrayal and hardship. The later plays also reveal a significant interest in the themes of family and generational conflict. Shakespeare's exploration of family dynamics reaches its apex in plays like The Winter's Tale, circa 1611, which deals with the consequences of jealousy, the destruction of familial bonds, and the eventual reconciliation of a divided family. The Winter's Tale presents a unique structure, beginning as a tragedy and transitioning into a comedy. The play opens with King Leontes' unfounded jealousy of his wife, Hermione, and his subsequent actions lead to her apparent death and the abandonment of their newborn daughter. Yet, through the miraculous reunion of father and daughter, as well as the eventual resurrection of Hermione, the play closes on a note of joyous reconciliation. The underlying message of The Winter's Tale is one of hope, that even after great loss and hardship, familial bonds can be repaired, and love can triumph over jealousy and bitterness. Shakespeare's exploration of the passage of time also becomes more pronounced in these later works. In The Winter's Tale, time is a literal and symbolic force that governs the unfolding of events. The play spans 16 years, and Shakespeare uses this extended time frame to underscore the cyclical nature of life. Loss is followed by redemption, and despair is succeeded by hope. In this way, the later plays reveal a more philosophical approach to time, suggesting that human suffering is often temporary and that restoration and renewal are always possible. This shift in perspective reflects the maturation of Shakespeare as both a writer and a thinker, as he began to incorporate more profound reflections on the inevitability of change and the possibility of renewal. Another defining feature of Shakespeare's later plays is their engagement with the supernatural. While elements of magic and the supernatural have been present throughout Shakespeare's earlier works, they take on a more prominent role in the later plays, particularly in The Tempest. In this play, the supernatural is not just a plot device, but is woven into the very fabric of the narrative. Prospero's magical powers are both a source of control and a means of achieving reconciliation. However, the resolution of the play, which sees Prospero renounce his magic in favor of human interaction and forgiveness, suggests a move away from reliance on the supernatural toward a more humanistic approach to resolving conflict. This transition reflects the changing intellectual currents of the time, as the Renaissance began to give way to the early modern period and humanist values took center stage. Shakespeare's use of language in the later plays also reflects his evolving approach to drama. The poetic language of the early comedies and tragedies, which was often dense and intricately structured, becomes more lyrical and flowing in the romances. The heightened emotionality of plays like The Tempest and The Winter's Tale is reflected in the language, which, though still rich in metaphor, takes on a more fluid and expressive quality. This change in style mirrors the thematic shift from tragedy to romance, with a greater focus on emotional resolution and the restorative potential of human relationships. The poetry of the later plays is less concerned with intellectual puzzles or moral quandaries than with the portrayal of the emotional journey toward healing. The later works also represent a formal transition from the dominance of tragedy to a genre that blends elements of both comedy and tragedy, often with a focus on closure and harmony. This shift can be seen as Shakespeare's response to the political and cultural changes of his time, as well as his own maturation as a writer. As England entered a new era under the reign of King James I, the need for plays that offered not only entertainment but also a vision of social and emotional restoration became more pressing. The later plays, with their emphasis on forgiveness, reconciliation, and the restoration of order, provide a more optimistic view of humanity at a time when political stability was increasingly uncertain. In conclusion, Shakespeare's later works represent both a continuation and a transformation of his artistic journey. Through his exploration of themes like forgiveness, time, and familial bonds, as well as his shift in tone from tragedy to romance, Shakespeare demonstrated his capacity for artistic renewal. These plays reflect his ability to adapt to the changing cultural and political climate of his time, while also offering a more hopeful, redemptive vision of the human experience. While his tragedies may have left audiences contemplating the darker aspects of human nature, his later works invite reflection on the possibilities for reconciliation and healing, ensuring Shakespeare's enduring relevance as a playwright whose works resonate with audiences across time. William Shakespeare's legacy is unparalleled, cementing his status as one of the most influential figures in the history of literature, theater, and culture. The breadth of his works, the depth of his insight into human nature, and his profound contributions to the English language continue to shape not only the world of drama, but also broader cultural understandings of art, identity, and society. This chapter examines the lasting impact of Shakespeare's life and works, exploring his influence on subsequent generations of writers, the development of theater, and his enduring cultural relevance in the modern world. Shakespeare's influence on the English language is perhaps the most immediately recognizable aspect of his legacy. He is credited with coining or popularizing hundreds of words and phrases that have become part of everyday speech. Terms like eyeball, bedroom, and swagger were introduced into the language through his works, demonstrating his creative use of language and his ability to shape the lexicon of his time. Moreover, many of his phrases, such as break the ice, wild goose chase, and to be or not to be, have become ingrained in common usage. Shakespeare's inventive use of metaphor, imagery, and wordplay continues to inspire writers and speakers, illustrating his unique ability to capture the nuances of human experience in a single phrase or expression. Beyond his linguistic contributions, Shakespeare's impact on the structure of drama and theater is profound. He helped to revolutionize the stage, moving away from the simplistic, morality-based plays that dominated the early English theater toward more complex narratives that explored human psychology, social relationships, and political intrigue. His development of the five-act structure, which became a standard for tragic plays, and his ability to blend genres, combining elements of tragedy, comedy, and history, have had a lasting influence on playwrights throughout history. The depth and variety of Shakespeare's characters also set a new standard for the portrayal of human beings on stage, presenting individuals who are multifaceted, morally ambiguous, and emotionally complex. This departure from stock characters and predictable narratives opened the door for a more nuanced and sophisticated form of theater. Shakespeare's exploration of human nature, with its focus on the complexities of love, power, ambition, jealousy, and revenge, has made his works timeless and universally relevant. His characters, from the tragic Hamlet to the scheming Iago, resonate with audiences across different cultures and eras because they reflect fundamental aspects of human existence. Shakespeare's ability to craft characters that embody universal emotions and conflicts means that his works can be adapted to address the social and political issues of any given time. Whether in the context of Renaissance England, contemporary society, or future generations, his characters remain relatable because they speak to the core of what it means to be human. The continued popularity of Shakespeare's plays is a testament to the universality and adaptability of his work. His plays have been translated into every major language and performed in countries around the world, from traditional productions at the Globe Theatre to modern reinterpretations that explore contemporary issues. Directors and actors continue to find new ways to bring Shakespeare's work to life, often reimagining his characters and settings in novel ways. For example, productions like Baz Luhrmann's 1996 film Romeo and Juliet recontextualize the play in a modern, urban setting while preserving the original dialogue, highlighting the play's timeless exploration of love, conflict, and fate. Shakespeare's ability to transcend time and place makes his work adaptable to different cultural contexts and ensures that his influence endures in the realm of performance. The way Shakespeare's work reflects and influences social and political discourse is another crucial aspect of his enduring legacy. His historical plays, such as Richard III, Henry V, and Julius Caesar, explore the nature of political power, leadership, and statecraft. Shakespeare's portrayal of rulers, from the tyrannical Macbeth to the noble Henry V, has had a lasting effect on how political leaders are depicted in literature and drama. His works often examine the ethical dimensions of power, what it means to be a just ruler, the consequences of ambition, and the moral challenges faced by those in positions of authority. Through his historical plays, Shakespeare delves into the tensions between personal ambition and public responsibility, offering timeless reflections on leadership and governance that resonate in both political theory and practice. Moreover, Shakespeare's tragedies, such as Hamlet and King Lear, continue to be sources of reflection on the nature of suffering, existential crisis, and human mortality. These works explore themes that are particularly relevant in times of societal upheaval or personal struggle. Shakespeare's portrayal of individuals grappling with deep internal conflict has been viewed as a means of exploring the human condition in its most vulnerable and complex state. Philosophers, psychologists, and scholars have long turned to his tragedies for insights into human behavior and the meaning of life, recognizing that Shakespeare's work provides a profound meditation on the existential questions that pervade human existence. In addition to his linguistic, theatrical, and philosophical impact, Shakespeare's role in the cultural and intellectual history of the Western world cannot be overstated. His works have been a source of inspiration for countless writers, poets, and artists throughout the centuries. Major figures in literature, including John Milton, Charles Dickens, and Virginia Woolf, have drawn on Shakespeare's themes, characters, and language in their own writing, either by directly referencing his works or by engaging with his ideas in new contexts. The poet Samuel Taylor Coleridge famously described Shakespeare as the divine poet, highlighting the profound influence Shakespeare has had on the literary imagination. By providing such a rich and varied body of work, Shakespeare has contributed to the development of English literature and continues to inspire writers to explore complex themes with the same depth and insight. Shakespeare's role in the development of Western cultural identity is also noteworthy. In many ways, Shakespeare has come to symbolize the cultural and intellectual achievements of England, particularly during the Elizabethan and Jacobean periods. His works have been used as a point of pride and a symbol of national identity, and his legacy continues to be celebrated in educational institutions, theaters, and cultural festivals worldwide. Through his writing, Shakespeare encapsulated the values, ideas, and concerns of his time, while also offering insights that transcend historical and cultural boundaries. His ability to speak to universal themes has made his work a vital part of the cultural heritage of not only England but also the world. Despite the enduring popularity of Shakespeare's work, his legacy has not been without controversy. Over the centuries, there has been significant debate over aspects of Shakespeare's life and works, including authorship questions, his portrayal of gender and race, and the interpretation of his political ideas. Some scholars have questioned whether Shakespeare's works were written by a single individual, suggesting that they may have been the product of a collaborative effort or even penned by someone other than Shakespeare. Others have critiqued the way Shakespeare's plays reflect the gender norms and social hierarchies of his time, particularly in the portrayal of women. These ongoing discussions highlight the complexity of Shakespeare's legacy and the ways in which his work continues to be analyzed, reevaluated, and interpreted by contemporary scholars. In conclusion, William Shakespeare's legacy is a monumental one, spanning across linguistic, literary, theatrical, and cultural domains. His contributions to the English language, the development of drama, and his exploration of human nature have made him an enduring figure in world culture. Whether through the depth of his characters, the richness of his language, or the universality of his themes, Shakespeare's work remains relevant today, inspiring countless adaptations and reinterpretations. The continued vitality of his works in modern theater, literature, and scholarship attest to the timelessness of his insights into the human experience and his remarkable ability to connect with audiences across time and space. As such, Shakespeare's legacy is not just that of a playwright, but of a cultural figure whose influence continues to shape the world we live in. William Shakespeare's contributions to the evolution of theater go far beyond his skill as a playwright. His works not only shaped the trajectory of English drama, but also revolutionized the very nature of theatrical performance, setting the stage for generations of future dramatists and performers. Shakespeare's impact on the development of theater is evident in various aspects, from his innovative use of space and stagecraft to his influence on acting techniques and audience engagement. This chapter examines how Shakespeare's works transformed theater as both an art form and a cultural institution, and how his legacy continues to inform the way theater is created and experienced today. One of the most significant ways in which Shakespeare influenced theater was through his use of the stage and his innovations in stagecraft. The Globe Theatre, built in 1599, served as the primary venue for many of Shakespeare's plays. Its design, a large open-air amphitheater, allowed for a more intimate and dynamic relationship between actors and audience. The thrust stage, which protruded into the audience, allowed actors to engage directly with spectators, breaking the barrier between performer and viewer. This spatial design contributed to the heightened emotional experience of the plays, encouraging active participation from the audience. In this sense, Shakespeare's theater was not a passive experience, but a shared interaction between those on stage and those in the crowd. Shakespeare's plays, often performed on minimal sets, relied heavily on language and actor movement to convey meaning. He used the space of the stage not just for physical action, but to represent the interior landscapes of the characters' minds. This reliance on verbal rather than visual cues was groundbreaking in its emphasis on the power of language to create meaning. For example, in Macbeth, the disorienting psychological effects of guilt and paranoia are portrayed through the language of the play, rather than elaborate set pieces or special effects. The actors' delivery of the lines, combined with their movement and the minimalist set, brought the emotional and psychological weight of the play to life. This innovative use of space and language marked a departure from earlier forms of theater, where spectacle often overshadowed substance. Shakespeare's plays also demonstrated a mastery of genre blending, which was a significant departure from the more rigid classifications of comedy, tragedy, and history in earlier theater. His ability to seamlessly combine elements of tragedy, comedy, and romance in a single work laid the groundwork for more flexible genre distinctions in later drama. A prime example of this is the play The Merchant of Venice, which oscillates between the genres of comedy, tragedy, and romance. Shakespeare's fluid approach to genre opened up new possibilities for playwrights, who began to experiment with the mixing of different tones and styles in a single work. This has become a hallmark of modern theater, where the boundaries between comedy, drama, and tragedy are often blurred. The role of the actor in Shakespeare's theater also marked a significant departure from earlier traditions. While medieval theater often relied on stock characters and exaggerated performances, Shakespeare's actors were expected to embody complex, multifaceted characters. His plays demand a level of psychological depth and emotional range that was unprecedented in English drama at the time. Shakespeare's characters, from the tortured Hamlet to the ambitious Macbeth, are deeply human in their contradictions and complexities. The actors who performed these roles were required to explore the psychological motivations and emotional nuances of their characters, leading to a more sophisticated and realistic style of acting. Shakespeare's influence on acting techniques can still be seen today, particularly in the emphasis on psychological realism and emotional depth in modern performances. Moreover, Shakespeare's understanding of character development and his use of soliloquies and asides contributed to the evolution of dramatic structure. The soliloquy, a device frequently employed by Shakespeare, allows characters to voice their innermost thoughts and reflections, thereby revealing their motivations and inner conflicts. The famous soliloquy, "To be or not to be," from Hamlet, is perhaps the most iconic example of this technique, offering the audience a direct window into the character's existential crisis. Shakespeare's use of soliloquies gave actors the opportunity to express the interior lives of their characters in a way that was unprecedented in theater. This innovation was a pivotal moment in the development of dramatic form, as it opened up new possibilities for exploring complex characters and themes. The evolution of theater in Shakespeare's time was also shaped by the cultural and social changes of the late Renaissance. As the Elizabethan and Jacobean eras progressed, theater became an increasingly popular form of entertainment for a broad cross-section of society. The Globe Theatre, in particular, attracted a diverse audience, from the nobility to the common people. This democratization of theater meant that plays had to speak to a wide range of social classes and interests. Shakespeare's ability to engage with both the intellectual elite and the general public allowed his work to resonate across societal divides. His exploration of themes like power, love, and morality appealed to the universal human experience, while his more complex works, such as Hamlet and King Lear, also provided intellectual stimulation for the educated audience. This dual appeal helped establish theater as a central part of English cultural life. Another important aspect of Shakespeare's influence on theater is his contribution to the development of dramatic conflict. Shakespeare's plays often revolve around intense personal and political struggles, and these conflicts drive the action of the plot. The complex relationships between his characters, whether between lovers, rulers, or enemies, create dynamic tensions that propel the narrative forward. In Othello, for instance, the conflict between jealousy and trust is at the heart of the tragedy, while in Julius Caesar, the political intrigue surrounding Caesar's assassination creates a compelling dramatic narrative. The way in which Shakespeare intertwines personal and political conflict has been a significant influence on later playwrights, particularly those who explore the complexities of human relationships and societal power structures. Shakespeare's work also helped to establish theater as a vehicle for social and political commentary. His plays often engage with the political issues of his time, whether through the exploration of monarchy, social hierarchies, or the nature of justice. For example, Richard III is a stark portrayal of the ruthless pursuit of power, while Macbeth examines the corrupting influence of unchecked ambition. Shakespeare's portrayal of political figures as morally complex and psychologically rich challenged audiences to think critically about the nature of power and governance. This tradition of using theater as a space for social and political reflection has continued in a modern theater, where playwrights often address contemporary issues such as inequality, race, and political corruption. Shakespeare's legacy also extends to the broader world of performance beyond the stage. His influence is evident in the development of opera, film, and other forms of media that have drawn on his works for inspiration. Numerous film adaptations of Shakespeare's plays, from Laurence Olivier's Hamlet to Kenneth Branagh's Much Ado About Nothing, have brought Shakespeare's works to new audiences, demonstrating the continued relevance and adaptability of his plays. The enduring popularity of Shakespeare on screen reflects his timeless appeal and the power of his stories to transcend the limitations of theater. Furthermore, Shakespeare's works have been adapted into various cultural contexts, such as Bollywood adaptations of Romeo and Juliet, underscoring the global reach and adaptability of his storytelling. The continued success of Shakespeare in the modern era is also attributed to the way in which his works allow for reinterpretation and reinvention. Modern directors and playwrights regularly adapt Shakespeare's plays to reflect contemporary issues and sensibilities. For example, productions of King Lear may reflect modern concerns with aging and the loss of power, while A Midsummer Night's Dream can be staged to address current issues related to gender and identity. This flexibility and openness to reinterpretation have kept Shakespeare's work vibrant and relevant in the modern world, ensuring that his influence on the theater continues to be felt by contemporary artists and audiences alike. In conclusion, William Shakespeare's impact on the evolution of theater cannot be overstated. His contributions to stagecraft, character development, dramatic structure, and the role of theater in society have shaped the very fabric of modern drama. Shakespeare's ability to engage with both the emotional and intellectual dimensions of human experience, combined with his innovative use of language and genre, has made his works enduring touchstones for the world of performance. The legacy of Shakespeare in the theater continues to resonate, not only through the timeless relevance of his plays, but also through the ways in which his work has inspired and transformed the art of drama. Shakespeare's theater was a living, breathing entity that reached out to all corners of society, and it remains a vibrant part of global cultural life today. The works of William Shakespeare continue to be a cornerstone of global culture, enduring for more than 4 centuries. His plays and poems have not only shaped the landscape of English literature, but have also had a profound and lasting impact on the broader realms of theater, film, and philosophy. Shakespeare's exploration of universal themes, such as love, jealousy, ambition, betrayal, and the complexities of human nature, has enabled his work to transcend time and geography, making it just as relevant to contemporary audiences as it was in his own era. This final chapter explores the continued relevance of Shakespeare's works in the modern world, examining the ways in which his themes, characters, and ideas continue to resonate with today's society. One of the key reasons for Shakespeare's enduring relevance is the universality of his themes. Shakespeare wrote about the human condition, love, power, revenge, identity, and mortality, in a way that transcends the particularities of time and place. His characters, from the tragic Hamlet to the ambitious Macbeth, grapple with emotions and dilemmas that are as relevant today as they were in Elizabethan England. For example, in Romeo and Juliet, the themes of youthful passion and familial conflict still resonate in modern stories about love, cultural division, and social pressures. Similarly, the exploration of political corruption and the abuse of power in Macbeth and Julius Caesar reflects ongoing concerns in contemporary politics, where questions of ethics, power, and leadership remain as pressing as ever. Furthermore, Shakespeare's exploration of identity and selfhood speaks directly to modern questions of gender, race, and personal autonomy. The plays contain numerous characters who struggle with their identities, be it through social roles, relationships, or personal choices. Characters like Hamlet and King Lear wrestle with questions of who they are and how they fit into the world around them. These existential struggles continue to resonate in a world where identity politics, the search for personal meaning, and questions of self-determination are increasingly significant. The ambiguity and complexity of Shakespeare's characters, who are often conflicted, flawed, and contradictory, make them timelessly relatable to modern audiences. In addition to their thematic depth, Shakespeare's plays offer rich opportunities for reinterpretation and adaptation. One of the ways in which his work continues to be relevant is through its frequent reinvention in various cultural and historical contexts. Shakespeare's plays are among the most frequently adapted works in all forms of media, from theater and opera to film and literature. Modern directors and playwrights often find ways to adapt Shakespeare's plays to address contemporary issues. For instance, Baz Luhrmann's 1996 film Romeo and Juliet transposes the classic tragedy into a modern urban setting while preserving the original Shakespearean dialogue. Similarly, The Tempest has been adapted in multiple forms, including as a commentary on colonialism and environmentalism. These adaptations highlight Shakespeare's versatility and ability to speak to different generations and global contexts. The flexibility of Shakespeare's work is also evident in how his plays are staged today. Directors continually find innovative ways to present his works, incorporating modern staging techniques, diverse casts, and new interpretations. Shakespeare's plays are staged in a wide range of environments, from traditional productions in grand theaters to immersive performances in non-traditional spaces. For example, the recent trend of Shakespeare in the Park or open-air productions allows audiences from different walks of life to experience his work in more accessible, communal settings. These varied interpretations ensure that Shakespeare remains a living and evolving part of the theatrical tradition. Moreover, Shakespeare's influence extends beyond the arts into modern philosophy, psychology, and sociology. His works explore deep questions about human behavior, morality, and society that continue to be relevant to modern thinkers. For instance, Hamlet has been analyzed by scholars and psychologists for its portrayal of the human psyche, particularly its exploration of indecision, melancholy, and existential dread. Similarly, Shakespeare's depiction of leadership in plays like King Lear and Richard III remains a touchstone for political theorists and ethicists grappling with the nature of power and authority. The philosophical depth of Shakespeare's works means that they continue to be a source of scholarly inquiry and debate in numerous fields. Shakespeare's language, too, remains a vital part of his legacy. While much of the vocabulary and sentence structure in his works may seem archaic, the linguistic creativity of Shakespeare continues to enrich the English language. Many of his coined words and expressions remain in common use, further embedding him in the fabric of modern life. His rich use of metaphor, wordplay, and double entendres continues to inspire writers, poets, and linguists. The beauty of Shakespeare's language, with its rhythmic poetry and vivid imagery, is a key reason why his works remain cherished and continually studied. Shakespeare's influence on the evolution of the English language is a testament to his lasting impact on the way we express ourselves. Shakespeare's work also remains essential in education, particularly in the teaching of literature and drama. His plays are a cornerstone of English literature curricula worldwide, providing both a rich source of analysis and a timeless reference for the exploration of human nature. Through his complex characters, intricate plots, and profound themes, Shakespeare's works challenge students to engage critically with language, history, and culture. Educational institutions often use Shakespeare as a means to introduce students to literary analysis, critical thinking, and the art of storytelling. The continued emphasis on Shakespeare in education ensures that his influence on future generations remains as strong as ever. Moreover, Shakespeare's work remains a vital part of global cultural heritage. His plays have been translated into nearly every language and are performed all over the world. His works transcend national and linguistic boundaries, speaking to universal human experiences and values. In countries as diverse as India, Japan, and Brazil, Shakespeare's plays are adapted to reflect local customs, social issues, and historical contexts. The global nature of Shakespeare's influence highlights the universality of his themes and the global appeal of his characters. By transcending national and cultural boundaries, Shakespeare's work remains a unifying force in world culture. Another reason for Shakespeare's continued relevance is the way his works address the complexities of human relationships. His characters' interactions, whether in the form of love, rivalry, friendship, or betrayal, provide a mirror to the relationships we navigate in our own lives. Shakespeare's portrayal of romantic love, such as in Romeo and Juliet, Twelfth Night, and A Midsummer Night's Dream, speaks to the complexities of desire, passion, and heartbreak. Similarly, the deep political and personal conflicts in Othello, Macbeth, and Julius Caesar shed light on the nature of loyalty, ambition, and revenge. The intricacies of these relationships, both personal and political, continue to resonate with audiences today, offering timeless reflections on the emotional and social dynamics that shape our world. Finally, Shakespeare's legacy is intertwined with the ongoing development of global theater. His influence has been so profound that many contemporary playwrights, directors, and actors acknowledge his foundational role in shaping the language and structure of modern drama. Theater companies around the world continue to produce Shakespeare's works, often employing innovative approaches that keep the plays fresh and relevant to modern audiences. The fact that Shakespeare remains a central figure in the global theatrical canon speaks to the enduring power of his work to captivate, challenge, and inspire. In conclusion, the timeless relevance of William Shakespeare in the modern world is undeniable. His exploration of universal themes, the complexity of his characters, and his linguistic creativity ensure that his works continue to resonate with contemporary audiences across the globe. Whether through adaptations, reinterpretations, or scholarly analysis, Shakespeare's influence remains a vital force in literature, theater, philosophy, and culture. His ability to speak to the core of human nature, offering insights into love, ambition, identity, and power, guarantees that his work will remain as relevant in the future as it has been for over 400 years. Shakespeare's enduring legacy, both as a writer and as a cultural icon, ensures that his work will continue to inspire, challenge, and delight audiences for generations to come.